A good number of you all in the room are familiar with the NTRA Racetrack Accreditation process. How many of you have gone through the process and are an accredited NTRA racetrack? A few? I worked with them for several years and it was a very intense process of going everywhere on the racetrack and the facility. Obviously, it wasn't just racing surfaces. It was the way they ran the racetrack and the way they handled the horses and the way they enforced the rules and most importantly, the facility. And the racetrack was the most important part of the facility because that, as we've talked, is for the best interests and the best rides and the best you can do from safety standpoint for the horses and their riders. Now HISA has taken over the responsibility of racetrack accreditation. And as anything transfers from one organization to another organization, there's some questions about what they're going to require. And they've already done a number of racetracks. And it's my pleasure to introduce a good friend of mine, Greg Stiles. He's the racetrack accreditation manager for HISA. And Greg and I worked together in Arizona. He served 7 years as the racing division manager for the Arizona Department of Gaming. And he's going to now provide information, was referred to us as a cheat sheet for, for your accreditation process and get ready for his visit. Also is on the screen Tony Patterson, also a racing accreditation manager for HISA, who will be joining. And I'll turn it over to Greg.
Well, I'm a walker, so I'm going to walk through the crowd here. But Tony, can you hear me?
Can you hear? Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
All right, perfect. Once again, my name is Greg Stiles. I'm one of the accreditation managers for HISA. My counterpart, Tony Patterson, is on Zoom. Tony's on the vet list right now. He had knee replacement surgery a little bit ago. He's doing very good. He doesn't know this yet, but before he comes back to work, he'll have to do 4 furlongs in 53 seconds. And also, we've got an out-of-competition testing for him to be back on the job. So we expect him about 3 weeks from now to be part of our team. And Tony, we're looking forward to getting you back on the track.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to getting back as well. It's doing good, but like you said, if I can make that half-mile work, I'll be good to go.
Let's take a second. And I was out there this morning and looking at this majestic facility. And this is what we do. This is why we do it. When this gets old to me, watching these horses on the track, being a part of a racetrack, that's when I know it's time to leave, okay? Whether it's Churchill, Riedo, a county fair meet, it's the same for me. When I go out there and watch those animals and those riders do what they do, to me, that's heaven. That's heaven. And it's most likely what you guys do as well. I was thinking this morning, this is 8:30 right now. If you were at your tracks, you probably already put about 4 hours in for the day because you guys are so dedicated. So when we do an accreditation visit, we have 2 goals in mind, and I'm going to start, and I think everybody in this room can look at that slide and go, you know what? We have the same 2 goals. Number 1, every horse will return to the barn, whether it's racing or training, so it can be pampered, it's injury-free, and the grooms and the trainers that do what they do, and they love these animals, and they dedicate their lives to that athlete, that equine athlete. Second of all, is everyone who gets on those horses, rides those majestic animals in morning training or afternoon racing, can go home to their families, be pampered and loved, and do what they do, and the families that are dedicated to the sport. If we start with that 2 premise, all of us in the room, we're going to be fine. What's the HISA accreditation visit, and why do we do it? HISA Rule 2110 outlines the accreditation visit. Many of you in this room have already been through it. If we haven't gotten to your track yet, we will. If we've been to your track, your report's coming, and we'll work with you. But we have a premise at our accreditation team is we really want to work with every racetrack. We want to partner with you. So the accreditation visit is a series of multiple steps. Step one is that every racetrack is required to do a self-audit that is due December 31st of every year. It's a self-assessment on how well they're doing on the HISA rules. You may be a part of it. Your management at the track may have been a part of it, but it's usually a portal that we've created that there's a series of questions. This year it's 94, and it covers several things. So once that assessment of the track is turned in and is due December 31st of every year, we take that, we look at it, and that's the basis of our accreditation visit. Our visits are 2 to 3 days at each racetrack. Since HISA inception, we've been to about 35 racetracks all across the country, large and small, and we don't compare racetracks with each other. We're at your track, we're just looking at you. Once we're done with an accreditation visit, a report is created and is presented to our HISA National Safety Committee. That's who we report to on a weekly basis. So that report is reviewed by the safety committee. Eventually, it's released to the racetrack, which triggers a period, a 60-day period, in which they, the management, and your teams can respond. Now, the assessments are requirement met, partially met, and not met. It's not an indictment if there's a rule that's not met on anybody's job. We are here to help. We are here to be part fact checker. If a racetrack has said that they have a requirement met, we may need some documentation. If it's partially met, we can help guide the racetrack on how they can achieve full accreditation, or excuse me, full compliance. If it's not met, it's usually something we can work through. Once that track receives that report and they respond to those questions, we then will take it back to the safety committee, and they will make a recommendation to the HISA National Board. The accreditation team that visits your track does not make that accreditation visit or that accreditation decision. We are the eyes and ears for the safety committee, and we're the teachers that help you maintain accreditation. If we're doing our jobs correctly, we are helping you maintain that accreditation. So once again, track management turns in the accreditation. We cover the following areas during that accreditation visit. General racetrack safety. Does a track have a racetrack risk management committee? Do they have safety protocols? Are they doing emergency drills, horseshoe inspections? You may be a part of that racetrack risk management committee as a track superintendent. Big part of that is catastrophic injury reviews. Does a track have a medical director? We cover medical things. Concussion protocols. What's the return to ride guidelines? ALS ambulances versus BLS ambulances. Human injury reporting. Security, in and out procedures. What is it? How do we track it? Fire protection in the stable area. An emergency action plan. Security director and security officer. Are those positions in place? Very important. Tracks that do this well have those in place. Receiving barn protocols. How is it cleaned in between, uses? So what's missing from that list? To me, it's the most important. What's missing is you guys, the track superintendent. That's the section that I do, okay? It's very important that I connect with you guys and can sit and talk to you guys and find out what you do, how well you do it. The neatest thing about my job is I get to meet people, and we all have stories on how we got to the racetrack. Let me share mine. I come from a Midwest family, Omaha, Nebraska. Grew up, perfect opportunity. I'm one of 13 children. Catholic family, very religious mom, very religious mom. Very hardworking dad, 3 jobs to feed 13 children. 1,600 square foot home, 1 bathroom that worked, 13 kids, 5 sisters. As men in our family, showers and baths, we didn't do a lot. The daughters took care of the bathroom. Very religious mom, sent us all to Catholic grade school. Church every Sunday, took up the whole pew. Head slaps when we in church because we misbehaved. Mom had 3 vices. Number 1, she loved black, thick coffee. Loved it. Every morning we got up, she was sipping coffee. Loved menthol cigarettes, 3 packs a day. Coffee, cigarettes, 3 packs a day. Died in 1997, lung cancer. Who would have known? The other thing she loved was something called the daily racing form. She loved the horses. She loved to gamble. This is a religious woman, but she loved to gamble. When I was about 12 years old, and I'm dating myself, I'm 65 now. When I was 12 years old, and I was out eating my bowl of Wheaties, again, dating myself, Mom would be at the kitchen counter or table, reading the racing form and marking it up. And I asked, what's that? She says, it's the daily racing form. I said, what does it do? It picks winners. That's what she said. That led to a visit to HISA Racetrack as a 12-year-old, where my dad introduced me to that facility. And that was back in the days, it was 1970s, beautiful facility. It was one of the Midwest best tracks. I fell in love. I wanted to be part of that industry. I'd get up in the morning, ride my bike down to the racetrack, couldn't get a license, and I went and hopped the backstretch fence, walked barn to barn to barn, said, can I help? Can I walk? Learned what a hot walker was. I would hot walk a goat if I had to. I wanted to be part of this industry. Loved it, every bit of it. Mom loved to gamble, HISA, and now we're here. Have the best job in the world, okay? I get to work for HISA. I tell you that story, and you have stories similar too, because everybody has a great story to tell about how they got to the racetrack. So you can remember how you got there. Everyone in this room has got a story. You may be 2nd generation track superintendent, but remember those days and when you're sitting at your racetrack and you're thinking, boy, I worked real hard, just remember that, okay? I went to a Catholic high school and we had a teacher there that gave the cheat sheet for every test that she did. It was an open book and I loved it. So today, what I'm going to do for you is I've got the cheat sheet for the 2024 portal. In the next several slides, I'm going to tell you exactly what the questions are. And if you have questions about it, we can talk through it. The first question, and the number one thing we see when we're talking to track superintendents is this question. Do you have data collection protocols in place to assist in the proper and consistent maintenance of all racing and training surfaces that is based on the racetrack's written standard operating procedures? It's underlined for a reason, which is reviewed annually and updated as needed. The number one thing I see at racetracks all over the country is that there is not a written standard operating procedure. If you have one at your racetrack, you can mark requirement met. Most often what I see with everybody in the room is you do a fantastic job. You are very talented. You're part of this team at the racetrack, but it's all up here. You know what you do, you know what you have to do, but it's here. We need to put it down on paper. I'm not looking for secrets, okay? I'm looking to know what you guys do on an annual basis So when you win the lottery and you don't need to work, you're on a beach somewhere, somebody's able to take it and say, this is how we do it. So if you can sit down and write the SOP, that's fantastic. If you're not a writer, have somebody at the racetrack do it. We're not reinventing the wheel. HISA now has a pamphlet for you, HISA Summary of Racetrack Maintenance, which on page 4 of that document is a template for a track SOP. You guys all know each other. There's probably tracks that have an SOP. If you want to share it with those tracks and apply it to your track and put what you guys do, then that'll work as well. But if you don't have an SOP written down, that usually means that all the questions that follow are going to be partially met. But we want to get requirement met. We want 100% on this section. Next question. Have racetrack design records and racing and training surface maintenance records, surface material test and daily test been reviewed and submitted to HISA within 1 week of the results? Soil samples, do you turn those into HISA? That. Again, this is the 10 questions of the 2024 portal, which will be live October 14th on there. So if you've got that covered, you can give yourself a requirement met. Not met, it's not an indictment. You guys do a great job. We'll just have to work on that. Partially met, it's probably a little bit of a tweak. Tony, you still with me?
I'm here. I'm with you.
Just checking, buddy.
You're doing great.
Big part, was a pre-meet inspection performed on all surfaces prior to the race meet? Many of you have seasonal meets. Do you do a pre-meet inspection? Was there sufficient time to correct anything that you found at that racetrack before racing and training? Very important. Did inspections of dirt surfaces meet all the requirements of Rule 2154B1? And you can see in there, geometry of slopes, straights, turns, base inspection, surface material samples. Was your dirt track done? You have a synthetic surface, was that done? You have a turf surface, was that done? A lot of that is the RSTL system. We send that group out to racetracks prior to their meets. Was the inspection done? I know we're going through these quickly, but we'll have time at the end to answer any questions that you may have. Does the racetrack have the equipment and personnel necessary to maintain the racetrack in a safe and consistent manner? Kind of a iffy question. Do you have enough people? I know, you know, it's hard to keep people. This is a hard job you got. Long hours, long hours. Do we have the people to do it? Okay, it's tough. Do you have the assistants to do what you need to have done? Do you have the equipment needed done? Do you have water trucks? Enough of them? Are they broken? That type of thing. Maintain the racetrack in a safe and consistent condition. With surface inventory, equipment inventory, surface maintenance logs, surface material lists, or renovation logs documented daily and uploaded weekly to the racetrack, by the racetrack to an electronic database designated by the authority. That's the MQS system, okay? We work closely with them. Is that data being uploaded, okay? I know it's a pain sometimes, but it's consistent. You guys are a target a lot of times. When there's a catastrophic injury, when there's a spike of injury, who do they point to first? They point to you guys, okay? I can go on the backside And I can go to a trainer's barn and he'll tell me the racetrack is way too wet. They put way too much water on it. And I'll usually look and see what the percentage of winners they have. Go one barn over, racetrack's too dry. They don't know what they're doing. You guys are a target. You're targets, okay? But if you have that data in place where you can say, we do the same thing day over day over day, we take measurements, it's the same every day, and we do what we do, it starts to be where you guys are being consistent and maintaining that racetrack consistently over time. Who made that slide? This is question 53 on this year's portal. It'll be question, I think, 78. Are racetrack facilities designed and constructed and maintained to provide a safety for covered persons and covered horses by meeting the requirements of 2153B? Goes into the test barn. You may not have anything to do with that test barn, but look at some of the bolded things there. I walk every rail of every racetrack. And what I'm looking for is gaps, sharp edges, the height of the rail, every racetrack, turf or dirt. Gaps, are they marked with safety rules? Is there protective padding? Starting gate, some of you guys are involved in the starting gates, okay? I bolded that one where it said, no personnel other than those required for steering the gate shall ride on the gate while it's in motion. Just saw that last week. Just saw it last week. Mortified me that they were moving the gate from the 6 furlong pole to the mile and they were riding the gate. And the guy was on his phone. Scares me to death when they do that. Accident waiting to happen. So those are the things. A lot of times people don't know that anything within 10 feet of the inner rail needs to be in a collapsible form or padded. I see that often, racetracks large and small. So I'm looking for that. A lot of times we don't know that. And again, I'm working with track superintendents and that staff, working with them to let them know what it is and what we can do to correct it. Get that requirement met. That's what we want. Does the racetrack have an approved operation emergency warning system on all racing training and tracks to meet 2153E? A lot of you do a lot of the maintenance in there, okay? So is there a warning system on your training track and your main track? Is it tested on a consistent basis? I think I have one more slide. No, that's it. Those are the 10 questions. Gave you the cheat sheet. We've been to about 35 tracks. We'll be, if we haven't been to your track, we'll get there. We have 10 more visits this year, but that's it. That's the cheat sheet. If you want this presentation, I'll go ahead and give it to you. You can take it back to your tracks and you can get 100% requirement met. Any questions?
I have one for you.
Sure.
One of your early questions was the SOP. When we talked about the SOP for the maintenance, originally I thought the agreement was the maintenance guide that RSTL does as a part of setting up the MQS would suffice. Everybody in the room here would have that maintenance guide already done. Is that changing for this year?
Nope. Nope. That's what I'm looking for.
So if you're thinking about what the SOP is, we'll keep working. Davis at NYRA has done a particularly good job with his, and we'll keep working with you. So if you get the response that one isn't met, you just give them the MQS login, and from the MQS login, they can get to the guide, and it'll be up to you to help give Brandon or Caleb, when they're there, feedback.
Yes. So we've got it handled.
All right,
Right.
another one on the soil report.
Go ahead.
You said the soil testing.
Mhm.
In our pre-meet inspection, we take soil samples, we take 7 standard samples. Those samples go back and the data is automatically transferred to HISA. Does that meet everything you need for next year?
For me, yes.
So
Okay.
that'll be done on the pre-meet inspections. As long as you have the pre-meet inspection, all the data goes back to it.
Mhm.
So 2 questions. If you get a not met or not quite met, just say, hey, look, it's on the MQS.
Also, when entering the daily maintenance of the track, and we put that in the MQS, that uploads automatically to HISA as well. We don't have to actually send that, do we?
No, you're submitting it to the authority. All right.
Well, I've got another
ahead.
one. If you're in a non-HISA track, do you folks have access to the non-HISA tracks?
I don't have access to them. I know. Okay.
The answer is no. It goes in and it's all separated. The non-HISA tracks that are using the MQS. So if you happen to be in West Virginia or Louisiana and using the MQS, that data does not go over to HISA. It's kept separate.
Yeah.
So you can still use the same tools to communicate with management or the Texas Racing Commission, and that data does not go to HISA. So you don't have to worry about your management saying, what are you doing?
Jeff has one.
All right, when you inspected us, not saying it was you personally, but
Okay.
we have a permanent entrance at our quarter-mile chute for horses to go on and off the track.
Mhm.
That's never had a gap there. I've been there 37 years, never had a gap. Now they're requiring us to put a gap in there. It's a 40-some foot opening. Horses, Turfway Park, yeah. Horses are used, if they get loose, sometimes they occasionally run off there. In my 37 years, I've never seen an incident because of that.
Mhm.
If all of a sudden we go in and put a gap there now, I see problems. They're going to be running through that gap and could potentially be a catastrophic
When you're
event.
saying, are you saying the closure of the gap?
There's never been a gap there. It's a permanent entrance from the barn area for horses to come on and off the track. It's our main entrance.
Right.
Never
It's
been a
at the
gap
quarter
there
chute, right?
at the quarter-mile chute.
Right,
And it's where the tractor pulls off for a quarter-mile races to run out of.
right.
Never been a gap there, never. A gap goes in now and I see potential for catastrophic injuries, which is what we're trying to avoid.
Right.
But, we got pinged on that and now we have to put one in. And if there's never been a catastrophic injury there before, now I see it. And that's the whole point of HISA is to
Mhm.
stop these catastrophic injuries and events, but it's going to cause one. But because we got pinged on that, now we're in the plans of putting one in.
Right. I'll have to review the report and,
Yeah,
we'll have
look at
that
that one.
discussion.
We also got pinged for not having one at our tractor maintenance entrance, but there's one there and it's
Okay.
properly padded. But we got pinged for that too.
Well, then the answer on the Turfway report will be pictures of if it's the track maintenance yard, pictures of,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
and
I
that's
mean,
fine.
yeah,
What we try to do is be factual as possible, but we're human. We have a 2-day visit. So if you see something on the report that may not be as accurate, we try to get as accurate as possible. A correct response would be photos and evidence that it's meets the rule requirement, okay? What I try to do with every report is get with the general manager or people and go over the requirement not mets. I may not go over all the partially mets, but if there's a situation to where our team missed it, call it out. Let us know that it's been corrected or it was always there, okay? This is a 2 or 3 day visit. So we have a lot of work to do in those 2 and 3 days. And quite honestly, we missed some things. And I'm okay with that. If you come back and say, you know what, this is what it was. You may have saw that, may have been a personnel issue, or maybe we just missed it. So the correct response would be, here's a partially met. Here's what we've done. Here's what we feel why it's a requirement met. The responses by the track is not a one and done. It's a constant communication with our team to racetracks. Again, our goal as this accreditation team is not to be punitive. Okay, we're not going in there and looking at red flags and throwing and say that's a penalty. That's a rule violation. We would rather come in, partner with you, work with you, be your liaison. If we have a question we don't have an answer to, we'll get it for you. I think the racetracks that we've been to, I think you see that philosophy with this team, is that we really try to come in, learn what you do best, guide you where we can, and learn about what you do best. I thank you very much for your time. Go out and take a look at this wonderful picture here. Thank you. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Greg. Good job, brother.